Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Speedify Live. Actually, this is the 17th episode of Speedify Live. I'm your host, Alex Giesis. With me tonight is our guest, Doug Piper, the founder and host of Gourmet Brewing. He is a beer expert. He is a beer judge. He is a Speedify user. So welcome, Doug.
Oh, it's great to be here, Alex. I feel like Speedify is pretty essential to what I do with a low upload bandwidth that I have.
Ooh, that sounds tough for a streamer.
And it is, but my confidence is higher because of Speedify.
Nice. We try to be here for you. So maybe I should step in just for anyone joining us who doesn't know what Speedify is, right? So it is a software application that runs in the background on your computer or your iPhone or your Android phone or a Linux router. And it lets you use all your computers at the same time so that you have faster, more reliable internet. And there's a lot of smarts built in to make it protect live streams. So for live streams, video conferences, it understands what you're doing and it tries really, really hard to make sure that nothing goes wrong. Neither packet loss or internet connections coming in and out, bad Wi-Fi. It tries to deal with everything. So I'm glad to hear it's helping you, Doug. Do you want to tell us a little bit about you before we go too far?
Well, I guess. I am actually formerly an aerospace engineer. I consider myself very much an engineer, but I have moved into fine beverages. And I enjoy learning about fine beverages, their perception, how to appreciate them, how they're brewed, and how to enjoy them in my own kitchen. And so that's what my programs draw people into. We talk to subject matter experts and just kind of explore why a particular beverage can be so wonderful, or how to make it, or some aspect of it. It's infotainment, without a doubt, but pro brewers love it. We have a lot of them on there, and it's just a lot of fun for me. We all share beer together, and in today's world, we can't always get together like we used to. Travel seems diminished. So I think it fills an important void that while we can't sit across the table or meet at conferences that we used to go to, we can do it virtually. And I think that's a really important thing now.
Yeah, so the Speedify staff, of course, is scattered across 2 continents. And we haven't been able to get together for, whatever. 2 years, a whole bunch of people I still have never met. So we've been hosting all these, events on Zoom and things like that. And I have to say, there was the one where we had you was far and away the most entertaining. So Doug recommended 6 beers, and we had them shipped to every employee. And then we did a Zoom call with Doug and went through beer by beer, tasting them and discussing what we thought, and he guided the conversation, and it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that.
Well, see, I think that's where you've got to be a little bit creative. You've got to kind of jump through the screen, and the only way you can jump through the screen is, I think you've got a Peroni like I do.
I do have a Peroni.
And in a few minutes, I think, or maybe now, we're going to open it, but we can share the exact same beer together and we can talk about it. And all of a sudden now we've reached each other at a deeper level.
That's right. Should we open it?
I'm game. Let's do it. So one thing I'm going to do, I'll show it a little bit like how I do it on the programs.
Oh, now that's nice. We were talking about people bringing their live streaming to the next level. That second camera, that's fantastic, Doug.
So I think it's important. So for example, is before I do the pour, we'll actually talk about and zoom in on the label. So that way we can look at date codes, we can look at ingredients, but date codes are particularly important. So it shows this one is good for about 6 more months, which means it's probably 6 months old. So it's important, I think, to see what the color of the bottle is, the care the company put into the label. Many times there's actually a story about the label. I don't know any on the Peroni in particular. But, we look at those and kind of take it for granted, but what is the 1846 and what is the signature at the bottom? And, is that some sort of award? So I always like to talk about that before I do the pour. Then usually I'll switch cameras over to the side camera, open mine. I really don't generally show the opening. And then I do my best to do a nice pour. And usually my guest will help me sort of unpack that. But, we drink with our eyes. And it's very important to get something that is visually appealing. And we'll see if we can what kind of nice head we can get on this guy.
I'm glad I didn't embarrass myself with my pour.
There we go. So we can put that down. Now, to be able to look at that and appreciate the clarity. So we're going to switch cameras here over and look at the clarity of this. So that also gives us kind of a trick as to, how clean the glassware is. But I think that's important. The eyes tell us so much about a beer before we even drink it. We can tell this is a light beer. We can tell that it's probably hoppy by the aroma. We can look how long the head is lasting. There's just a tremendous amount of detail we can look. And a matter of fact, in a lot of ways, we will judge a beer long before by its appearance and its color before we ever take the first sip. So, cheers, Alex.
Cheers.
So what things come to mind when you drink that?
It's crisp and clean, right? To some extent, in my mind, Peroni is like the generic beer, right? It's really good, right? But like a light beer is something that's lighter than that. A dark beer is something that's darker. A beer is hoppy if it has more hops than this, right? This is, in my mind, the image of what a beer is. If you don't describe it any, it's, I don't know, crisp and clean. And
it's refreshing. A lot of people call it a lawnmower beer because it's refreshing, it's crisp. It's not so heavy that you can't have several of them, and it is something. It because it's a light beer, it goes with lots of different types of foods. It's a great beer. There's no such thing as a bad beer. There are just some beers that are poorly brewed.
So let's talk about natural light.
Let's talk about natural light.
So my college student daughter said, "Oh, you're interviewing Doug Piper tonight. You have to pretend that Natty Light is your favorite beer and see how he reacts." And I didn't quite have it in me to pull that off.
I have some in my refrigerator. It is an amazing beer how they can brew something that neutral and not have any off flavors. It's really a tremendous talent from a brewer that can consistently brew something that's that neutral, because it's very difficult to do that. So the great thing about that is you can have several of them on a hot day. Doesn't really slow you down. It is very refreshing. I have some in the fridge for that very purpose, because you can't have as many of those as or you can't have as many of these as you can some of those, and sometimes I like several beers.
Yeah.
So no, I think Natty Light
Yeah.
belongs in everybody's refrigerator.
Wow. All right. So much for Anya's advice.
Well, but you have to be open to that kind of thing. Otherwise, you're a snob. And
Right.
all beers have their place. All beers have go with certain foods. You just pick the right one. So, is it my go-to beer all the time? No. But if I'm at lunch, I want a beer, but I want something because I've got an event in an hour. And I want to have two of them. Natural Light or another light beer is great. I kind of like Miller Light, actually, light beer. Those are
Yeah.
especially well brewed.
Yeah. Nice for a hot day watching a baseball game.
Hmm. Yep.
So we're moving. We're moving offices to across the street from Yards Brewery. So that's some exciting news here.
Well, we have to do a live event from there. That sounds
We will
like the
have to do a
perfect
live
place.
event. So
I haven't done too many live events from locations, but we've been talking about that. So Speedify could help me with that, right? I could use the
yeah.
Wi-Fi there in the yards. They would have, a guest Wi-Fi, and then I could take
And
my
then
hotspot with me.
and the cellular on your phone. Yep.
Yep.
And you can
And
have multiple connections.
so you think that'd be a good live stream from there? Would I
do.
have the fidelity we have here?
Yeah, I think you should be in pretty good shape.
Let's try it.
Well, yeah, we will do that.
Well, I say that in half jest, but I would really, that's actually where I'm taking the shows now. I just came back from the Great American Beer Festival and had planned to do some live streams there. They restricted me from that. But I still want to do some live events from the breweries. And I've actually been talking to you guys on the best ways to do that because, you never know what speed you're going to get in a brewery.
Yeah. Oh, so by the way, we're live, of course. This is a live show. So if you ask, you put any questions in the comments, we're going to see them. So I see we asked everyone what their favorite light beer was, and Kenwood light beer is my only answer. I'm not familiar with Kenwood. Are you?
I don't know that one, but
All right.
but apparently it must be a good one.
Guess so.
Oh, Blue Moon's a good beer. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Bud Light.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Blue
kind
Moon,
of a
Peroni, and Hoegaarden are the three most often in my fridge. But
well, I was kind of a convert to Miller Lite, and I have to say I was a little bit of a snob when I approached it. But I did a program on American Pilsners and had the author of a recent book on American Pilsners, and we picked 5 American Pilsners to go through virtually, just like we're doing here. And we gauged the beauty of the beer and the head and the flavor and the taste. And a Miller Lite scored super high, and it was totally unexpected by me. And so I really gained an appreciation from that program. I appreciate that author.
that's good. All right. So what is your hardware setup right now? Like, what kind of internet do you have, and what kind of camera? I mean, you seem to have a pretty nice setup.
I'll switch to it. So this is the studio.
Whoa, nice.
You can. So this is me. You can see me raising the beer. I have 2 43-inch monitors that I'm looking at. One that's straight ahead that I'm looking at you and the camera right above. There's one here to the left. Let's see if that's clear. And that has all the switching equipment. So if you look over there, you can see there's kind of the main screen, and then there's the other cameras that I have here to bring on screen along with a computer. The thing that might be of most interest, if you want to bring up my shared screen, Alex, that's kind of my main control. So this is on the 43-inch monitor that's directly in front of me. So I have the clock to kind of keep up with my time. I have Speedify at the bottom, so I'm watching that to see if there is any issues. I have Companion running up here in the right-hand corner, and this allows me to change cameras. So if you look at my small image I can switch to a title slide. I can start a video and start to play back that. I can switch over to the cinema camera, which is in front of me. And I don't have to take my eyes off the screen. I can do all this live. I can bring up my laptop,
So that's
or I can.
Companion? Is that
That
app?
is Companion, yeah. And
Okay.
it's a lot of people use it with a Stream Deck, which is what I have. But I found actually I like the emulator that I can put on screen. So this is the studio. If you want to switch out of the uh, screen sharing, or I guess I can do it there. We'll go back to the wide view. So obviously you can see the lights, you can see the monitor. So in front of me is the beers that you actually saw in the video. And so I've got two cameras over here to my left. What I'll do is I'm going to take one of them loose here so you can kind of get a better idea of things. So it'll be moving around a little bit.
Yeah.
So this will give you an idea. So this is the primary laptop I'm using with the streaming. This here, let me get back a little bit. All right. So this is the monitor that is going through a ATEM switching system, so I can see everything. Straight ahead here is that same monitor. And so the switching system, if there is interest, is down here. This is over to my left. So this is what it's allowing me to switch to all the cameras. I have a GoXLR mixer. That's another laptop that I use. It's actually a Chromebook that I use for the when I want to share the screen. And then this is the setup with the live view of the pour. And here at the back, I have actually another monitor with some Christmas tree lights that give that nice bouquet. So that's what it looks like in real life. But when I switch over to the cinema camera, that's what it looks like.
That's so nice.
So,
That's fantastic, Doug.
well, you want to give people a good experience if they're going to sign up for these. Now, but behind me is actually a green screen. But it's not a physical green screen. I do it with lights. So if I change my lights behind me to white, that's the wall behind me. If we switch over, so I can switch it to red. But if I go to green, we get the green screen effect.
Nice. And what are you doing?
So
What software are you using for that?
actually using the ATEM switcher.
Oh, okay. Right.
So I'm really happy actually with this. The lights are a new upgrade. I had a physical green screen prior to this, and I want to work on my background, but this gives me the flexibility to use either green screens or a lighted background, which I think is very helpful. But all this hardware is really neat and fun, and I can do all kind of cool things. But if I don't have a good connection, and I don't have a great one, I have 10 megabits up is what I'm limited to. It costs a whole lot more money to get 20 where I am. So when you and I connected for Speedify, and I said, I've got this hotspot, and I've tried all these tricks with routers in order to make it switch over. But I said, my biggest concern, Alex, is that I don't want it to slow down the streaming computer because it's already loaded up pretty good.
Yeah.
And talked to you guys, and you said, I promise you, it does not bog it down. And it doesn't. I mean, so my confidence is so much higher because it really throws you off. I have a monitoring computer, and it's down here in the bottom right-hand corner. When I see pixelization, I'm going, okay, well, what's going wrong? And it's nice to be able to look on screen and go, okay, well, everything's smooth. So whatever that is something outside of my control.
Yeah, that's good. So you have a 10 megabit internet connection, and then you said in your attic you have a 4G?
Yeah, I have I have a hotspot, and I think it'll go up to maybe 80.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, because 10 isn't cool. That's right on the borderline, right?
It is.
For live streaming, right?
But if I hadn't gotten Speedify, it would have doubled my charges. So I think it's $80 a month I'm paying for 10 up. I'd be paying $160 a month. And I was about to have to pay that. But
Yeah.
Speedify allowed me to just leverage when I'm not using my hotspot for other things. I can use it for live streams, and it works. I mean, I think the most the funniest problem I had that Speedify bailed me out with is I have these. It's connected to two places.
Wait. So this is a streamergency.
Oh, streamer.
Streamergency. A stressful situation when one's live stream breaks down or cuts out unexpectedly.
Sorry, we're required to do that. I told you that.
Oh, I like it. I like it because that's the way you feel. It's kind of like
Yeah, everything comes to a stop.
But this didn't actually have that happen. So what had happened is I had moved some equipment around. Unbeknownst to me, I had not hooked up my main router connection to the internet. So it was not connected. Fortunately, the hotspot was. So when I went up and went live, and I'm sitting here looking at Speedify, and I'm going, wow, I wonder why the hotspot has so much data on it. And I'm looking and looking and looking, and so I couldn't stop. But when the show was over, I thought, what is wrong? My crummy internet, I'm going to call those guys and complain and all that. And I went down there and looked. It was never plugged in.
Oof. Yeah.
But with Speedify, it was never a problem. There was never a single glitch. And I was just, I mean, there's lots of times I'm thankful for it, but that one in particular, I would not have caught otherwise.
That's a good story. All right. Well, I'm glad we could help.
Yeah. Well, I have numerous ones. I mean, another just super quick one.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, is I had it doing, all of a sudden I got pixelization, and I had a huge update from Adobe Creative Suite. I was starting to get pixelization, and then I looked down there and figured, what in the world is sucking all that bandwidth? And I was able to shut down Adobe Creative Suite. Now, I know in a perfect world it should have caught that, but you know, you don't know what my computer and its hardware can handle. So,
yeah.
Had I not had the dashboard, I would have assumed it was my hotspot, or I'd assumed it was my internet provider. So, you know, you need to be comfortable when you're doing live streams. And this, for me, gives me a much higher confidence level.
Yeah, good. I'm glad we can be there for you. So where do you stream to?
I use Crowdcast, and then I stream out of Crowdcast to various other platforms, YouTube, Facebook primarily. Also, I'm a LinkedIn Live producer, so I stream into LinkedIn Live, and they're pretty picky, so you don't want your stream to break on LinkedIn. It's pretty tough to get approved to stream into them, so I'm especially sensitive.
How effective has LinkedIn been for you? Is there a big audience there?
No, it is not the biggest audience, but it is probably the most important audience, because LinkedIn tends to be where professionals are, and an awful lot of my audience is professionals. And so a lot of the audience that I'm actually engaging and I want to come to get on my program are going to be on LinkedIn. So the more often they see, I mean, they're avoiding Facebook at work. They're not on there, but it's okay to look at LinkedIn at work.
Right,
So when they see me streaming on LinkedIn and they see it over and over and over again, they go, wow, that guy, if he's on LinkedIn, first of all, he must be fairly vetted. I've seen his programs I like, so, I would love him to contact me and be on Gourmet Brewing. And it really helps.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. It's getting guests that's work.
Yes.
So how do you promote the streams? How do you get, your audience?
Well, I've been building a mailing list. So to watch the events on Crowdcast, you have to submit your email address to get access to the stream. And that allows them to be added to my mailing list. Also, Crowdcast has the ability to follow people. So when I go live, they can get immediate alerts, and I can also email them through Crowdcast. So I do use Facebook, and I do get some visibility there. I use LinkedIn for some publicity, and I use Twitter for some publicity. By far, over 50% of the new emails that I get and registrations are coming via my mailing list or the people who are following me on Crowdcast. So I'm pretty happy with how Crowdcast works. I like their chat screen. I like the power of that. And I like their Q&A that they have because it allows people to kind of put in questions. You can vote them up so that when your guest goes to the Q&A section, the most popular question is right there at the top. And people appreciate that because they're busy and they say, okay, well, the event's over. I'm really interested in this question. They push it. It ends up at the top. Then the most important questions get answered first while the guest is freshest.
Right. Oh, that's good. Let's see. Oh, there's another comment from a viewer.
Barbara's got a
all right. Barbara's
Peroni also.
Yay.
Yeah, cheers.
Barbara. All right. So if anyone has any questions for Doug or for me, just ask them. Also, while we're on the topic of following people you like, feel free to follow, whichever one applies for the platform you're on. Cheers. Hey. Very good, Barbara. So, what else? What did you do before you were the Gourmet Brewing?
I was into aerospace doing the interconnect systems for computers, weapon systems, airlines and flight systems and that kind of thing. So I'm an electrical engineer by training, so that's why all this tech stuff, that's why this is probably more complicated than it needs to be. but it allows me to be comfortable with what I do, and I think there's so much people are tired of Zoom calls where nothing changes. It's just talking heads. And if I can give, several different perspectives, move a camera around, have something that's a pretty shot like that, it separates you out from a Zoom call.
So, am I right? You have some. What certifications do you have in the beer world? I'm
a certified Cicerone. I'm a certified beer judge from the BJCP. I'm also a mead judge.
So how do you get that? What do you need to? How do you become a certified judge? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, for me, it was lots of study because while I have had plenty of beer over my lifetime, knowing the history and the details and all the different styles is pretty extensive. For example, I also am a GABF judge, so we just did the judging for the Great American Beer Festival competition. So this is all the specifications for it. It's 90-something pages. No, I'm sorry, 64 pages. And these are all the different styles that there are. And why you don't have to have them memorized, you have to be able to understand them in the details because they're very succinct. So a lot of this is just, learning the lingo and doing a lot of brewing and doing a lot of tasting. And that's great homework. And that was actually what started this whole thing in my particular area in South Carolina. I'm from Greenville. And there's not a lot of beer judges in this area. There's just a few. And I really wanted to have a beer literally across the table with a real expert that could help me learn to unpack a beer and how it tastes and what that characteristic is in your mouth and be able to put that into words, because you have to be able to repeat it back. You got to know this is kind of a light golden color. You need to be able to refer to the head as to whether it's creamy, is it sea foamy, is it tan, is it off-white, is it ivory, what is the clarity, is it brilliant, what are the characteristics and the colors, and then you have to unpack the flavors. And so for me, as an electrical engineer, I didn't have that vocabulary.
No.
And there were few people in the area that could help me. So I started doing virtual events with subject matter experts that were willing to kind of do that. So we would get the same beer, just like what you and I are doing. You said, let's go get a Peroni, and that's what we'd agreed to. But what I would do is get the brewer at Peroni, and he would get it, and I would have it, and he would unpack that beer. And he would talk about its ingredients and its flavor and its history and why the hops are like they are. And all of a sudden, there's a story behind every beer. And when you begin to understand that story, you begin to really appreciate what you're drinking.
Yeah. Oh, it's neat stuff. I wish I knew more.
We can fix that.
But it turns out it's work, right?
That's right. Hey,
I'm not big on work and studying.
yeah, well, this is beer homework. There can't be anything wrong with that.
Yeah, that's right. So, do you watch live? Like, who's your favorite live streamer that you watch? Are there any? Or are you output only?
Well, I'm primarily output only. I do watch some, but for the most part, they're not beer related. They're more videographers or people who are just doing, what I think are really great YouTube videos. So I can learn the art. I mean, for example, these ATEM controllers, I can switch over and show those again. These things are, even for an electrical engineer, pretty darn complex.
Yeah.
So to learn how to work with these and really make them work and switch like I'm doing here, and understanding how to create the macros. I mean, they don't work like that out of the box. So you've got to figure out how to do all these things, and then practice, gains me a lot. I've probably done, I don't know, maybe 150 events now, and I've learned I have to put as much stuff on the screen in front of me, sort of like a teleprompter, so I don't have to look around and go, oh, well, this thing's over here and this is down here. I don't want to look away from the screen if I can help it. So that's why there are two 43-inch monitors in front of me.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic looking setup you have there. So what do you think is going to change? I mean, these things keep changing, right? I mean, quarantine has been big and the whole rise of live. What do you think is going to happen next with live streaming?
Well, I think everybody's going to up their game, much like I'm doing, and I hope to continue to improve mine. I think clearly our pandemic is not going to be over this year. Clearly, it's probably not going to be over next year. So we're going to have to learn to live with this, whatever that means. And I think it has legitimized what, Alex, you're doing right here. That it's okay to sit in front of your computer and absorb some good information and have it be infotainment. I mean, we're having a beer. And anybody there has the possibility to have one too. Well, this is fun, but we're learning something at the same time. And when you go to the trouble to get all the technology to work and have it work reliably, and when I go to the trouble to bring up, nice photography, make it look, again, I believe we drink with our eyes. So this beer is going to, you have a whole different perception of it after you've looked at it in this form, versus me just holding it here. And for those in the audience, I think Barbara has a Peroni there. If you're sipping one along with us, you've now got a whole different perception, because normally in my program, Alex, we would be talking about the history of that beer, how it's brewed, the special equipment, why the bottle is the shape that it is. And assuming you like it and want another one, you'll have a whole different relationship with that. You'll say, oh yeah, I saw the brewer talk about it and explain why it's the color that it is and why the bottle is green and why it has this characteristic and has that characteristic. Well, the only way you could have ever done that is to go to Italy and meet that brewer.
Yeah. But because of what we've gone through in the pandemic, people are now comfortable. They may seek out that kind of program and say, I really enjoy that. I see Peroni in the store all the time. I've watched a program with the brewer talking about it and its history, and I just like that story. I like giving them my money. Yeah, it's great. There's all these little areas. You can carve out a spot talking about the content, right? Brewers. Actually, what live streaming I've been into lately? All the space stuff.
Oh yeah.
Between SpaceX and Blue Origin and NASA and Virgin Galactic, it seems like every week there's some spaceship launching I can tune in and watch live.
Not to mention, watch what's going on in the space station. I mean,
it's fantastic views.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it, and I think it's only going to grow. But again, I don't know that when I'll ever have faster upload speeds, at least not without doubling my expenses. And, while $80 a month for what I'm getting might seem trivial, okay, you double that, it's $160 a month. That's a piece of equipment I can't buy because, I'm paying that much in internet. And Speedify has enabled me to use the hotspot I have. And right now I'm looking at it, I think it's coasting along at maybe 2 megabits per second upload speed, and the hotspot's not even being used. And I think looks like I've got a decent image. I don't see any pixelization, but my hotspot's waiting there.
Yeah, right now, your background isn't changing at all and stuff, so the bandwidth isn't that high. But yeah, I mean, the fault tolerance is amazing. All right,
it's essential for people on 10 megabit uploads.
That's good. So when do you think you're going to start going on the road and visiting breweries? So you have to wait for this to end, or are they ready now?
No. Well, now that we can get into them, I actually started last week. I was in Denver and I went to several breweries in the area. Let's see what I went to: Left Hand, New Belgium, Great Divide, Wine Coop. I know I'm forgetting some, but and I was going to do live streams from them, but I really didn't have everything lined up with them. Everybody was really at the convention, and there weren't too many folks at the brewery. So my plan is going forward to not only have events that, like we were talking about with Peroni, where I would virtually meet with the brewer. I want to set it up so that when I go into a city, I'll actually meet with the brewer in that city, and we'll do a live stream from there, because I've got some cameras that we can walk around and tour. And Alex, you and I've been talking about this a little bit, how I can do a, in real life type stream, and the challenges that it's going to take to be able to leverage the brewery's Wi-Fi along with the hotspot Wi-Fi and be inside and have a good continuous stream while you go through the bowels of a brewery.
Yeah. So one thing I've been doing these days is I've set up a fake Twitch account, right, which is named after my dog. And if we try a different location or something, we stream to that Twitch account first, so nobody sees. But we get to go end to end and see it. We're really live on Twitch, and yes, this is working. Okay, we can do it. Go back to the real account. Let's go live. So
that's a super idea. I didn't know that.
Doing. Yeah.
Okay.
So there was one the other day where we wanted to live stream going down a flight of stairs and riding the elevator back up, and. So we did it like 4 times to the other account before we went live on the real account to say, of course it works. And of course it does work. But
so what was the hardware you were using with that? Because that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. I believe it was 2 iPhones. So the one phone was on cellular and was joining the other's hotspot.
Okay.
I think that's what we were using that day. Yeah, it was definitely an iPhone. With the 2 connections. So the one trick in Speedify, by the way, when a cell phone joins another cell phone's hotspot, it sees it as Wi-Fi, and so it says, "Oh, this is cheap and fast" by default. So if you know that your Wi-Fi is actually a cellular, you have to go into settings and change it to secondary to give Speedify the hint that this hotspot is actually not cheap Wi-Fi, it's cellular. So we're planning to fix that in the next couple of weeks. The software definitely has enough hints that it should be able to figure it out for itself.
So I would probably use a hotspot. How would it interpret? It would be the same thing, wouldn't it? It would interpret the Wi-Fi on a hotspot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the very near future, it'll adjust automatically and realize this is cellular.
So one of the questions I've had: should I actually hardwire that to the phone? I mean, I've got a Ethernet out on the hotspot, or is Wi-Fi good enough in that scenario?
If you don't mind the extra wire, right?
Yep.
There's a lot to be said for hardwiring it, and interference and things, and other people using other Wi-Fi won't mess with you. Are you on Android or iPhone, by the way?
Well, I'm on Android, and I've been a big Android fan, but I am seriously considering the new iPhone 13 Pro Max for this purpose.
Certainly those cameras look nice.
Well, the camera's everything, and as you can tell, I mean, again, this cinema, this is not about the camera. This is all about the lenses and the f-stops and everything that it takes to make that look pretty. Mm-hmm. So I'm not just looking for,
That's so nice. Your background, which is actually a computer monitor showing that screen that's wrapped in Christmas lights. That is so cool, Doug. It's those little touches that make you look so good.
Well, I've got even though this is a relatively large space, That is that extra monitor, and these are the Christmas tree lights that are on it. I can reach from either end, so there's maybe not quite 5 feet. So this is a pretty compact space, and to be able to get that kind of bouquet, you've got to have an extremely bright, is the term, lens. So this is actually a cinema grade lens, and it actually has another booster on it. So the lens and the
Oh, is that
or
the IKEA desk with the curve in it?
no, it's just a straight one. It is actually an IKEA standing desk, but no, it's I think yours looks like it's got the curve in it, but
Yeah, it's got the curve. I was wondering for a second if we actually had the same desk. But
no,
we don't.
It's straight across here.
It's straight across. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Your mouse looked to me like an indent. I see.
Oh.
So, what social media do you use personally? Any at all? Or are you on Twitter, on Facebook?
I have a Twitter account and I post events there. Same with Instagram. I'm a little active on Facebook. I'm probably more active on LinkedIn, just because the conversations tend to be more professional, and I try and keep everything I'm doing, try and stay away from the politics and religion and everything else. We're really just talking, enjoying delicious beverages, and I like that aspect of LinkedIn. So I'm there probably more than anywhere else. But where I spend my time, is doing events like these, and I'll usually my audience will be 1,500 people or over.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Well, I had to work for it.
Yeah. So building the mailing list, you think that's you get
it's
these email
huge.
addresses?
Well, at least for me, 50% of the registrations, come from the mailing list.
Right. So do you sort of email before you go live every time, or how much do you email people?
Usually only once, a week or sometimes less before the event. I really don't want to barrage people with a whole bunch of emails, so I really just send the one. There'll be a lot of follow-up in social media, I guess primarily Facebook, that tends to be my second largest draw of registrations. A little bit from Twitter and other places, but they're all pretty small. The biggest majority come from the mailing list itself. So that's why I've focused on building a mailing list first. And I really haven't built up my YouTube channel for that reason, because I want people to view the programs on my internet platform, which is Crowdcast, because they have to exchange their email address to watch it. That gives me at least permission to email them once, unless they immediately unsubscribe.
Yeah, that's definitely a problem with YouTube. No idea who it is that's watching, right?
Right.
We get the viewer count, but who were they? No idea unless they leave a comment. So, yeah. Is anyone watching? We are live. If you have questions or comments, just put them in there, and we'll answer them.
Well, and I had tried Speedify. The StreamYard, and I like StreamYard because it's a smoother interface, to be honest, than Crowdcast. Crowdcast can be a little bit clunky from a presenter point of view, but it has such a great user experience, and my audience just is very comfortable with it. The chat just flies by. There'll be an average of probably 24 questions with every event. And so it's a great community. It's just, I think everybody's in there. They're comfortable. They've had a beer, maybe two. They're listening to a professional brewer or someone significant in the industry. So they walk away and they go, wow, I learned some new things, had some delicious beer, heard the brewer unpack that beer. And I feel like when you're drinking the same thing, the very same thing, You begin to reach people at a deeper level. You've kind of jumped through the screen and you've had a shared experience.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing that's been fun is we'll have pop-up guests. So sometimes they're famous people in the audience. I'll spot them and I'll invite them to come on screen.
Oh, nice.
And we've had some really cool people show up. So you never know in my events, not only will you have possibly a famous brewer or a famous author or a famous person in the beverage world, but you might have another one that he's friends with that's cheering him on in the chat, and you see him and you go, oh, there's, Sammy. And I'll hear the guest, they'll go, Sammy, I'm glad to see you on the screen there, or see you there in the chat. And I'll invite him on screen. I'll say, you got a camera? Come on. And all of a sudden now, you've got maybe an author, famous author, and you've got a famous brewer, and they haven't seen each other in a while. And there's a really fun dynamic. And we've all got a beer, and so we're all talking, and everybody's laughing, and
That's nice.
That's when it really gets good.
Yeah, so with that platform, the people watching the video, you can actually invite them.
Yeah.
And they can join.
Now they don't have to accept, of course.
No, of course not.
But most of them are used to my programs, and they know there's a chance they might get invited on screen, and so most of them are ready, and it adds a wonderful dynamic to it, because it adds an aspect of, were you there? I've never had Ken Grossman from Sierra Nevada show up, but I guarantee you one day he will. And when everybody says, well, did you catch the gourmet brewing event when Ken Grossman popped in? And, you've added a whole nother dynamic to the event when that happens. And I want an unpredictable aspect to it, with everything except for the stream itself.
Right. Yeah, so I've been involved. Ecamm this week is running a Leap into live streaming event. And so I'm presenting on Thursday at 2. So y'all should join that. But yeah, they've been using software called Run the World. And I guess it's particularly, I hadn't seen it before. It's actually for running conventions. And so it's similar. There's a presenter, but the presenter can see all the guests. And you can actually offer, to let other people on camera, which turned out to be good, because, some of us showed up as guests. And so we just used it that way. But you're right. You could do really cool things with that.
It adds a lot to the presentation. It's awkward because, at least at first when I started doing, they all weren't always ready, didn't have their mics right and things like that. But, as we've all spent way too much time on virtual meetings, we've all got that pretty well down pat now, and can easily add somebody. And it just adds a whole nother dynamic. Again, I'm trying for this not to be a Zoom call. I want it to be something where people go, wow, look at the clarity of that beer, how it's holding up.
Oh, nice.
It is brilliantly clear. And
yeah,
you don't get that on your typical Zoom call.
Yeah. When Clubhouse came out, the audio app, that was sort of interesting, but it frustrated me so much, right? You go to someone in the audience and their audio would be so terrible. They didn't have some microphone. They were just, maybe shouting into their speakerphone. And it just kind of kept breaking it for me. Actually, we had what appeared to be Brad Pitt one day listening to us. And when we asked him if he was Brad Pitt, he was basically like, I just want to listen, which makes me think it might have actually been Brad Pitt. But
wow,
yeah,
I can't top that one.
We didn't get but we didn't actually get him to participate. There was a lot of argument afterwards if was that Brad Pitt or not.
He hadn't been on a gourmet brewing event yet. Whether he was the real one or not, nobody's had that name.
That's good. Yeah, so do you have any other advice for people who are just getting started streaming on making their shows great? I think you've given a
Well,
lot.
I think it's important to get out and stream. I mean, you've got to make your mistakes. You've got to learn. In every stream, I have some piece of equipment fail or go crazy. I mean, when I went to get ready for this, my computer said it was repairing the C drive. I'm like, oh, really? This is a bad time for that.
That is not good.
I've learned I have to get the guest on 30 minutes early. For yours, it was 10 minutes, and it worked, but not most of my guests. 30 minutes is better because they got to still work out their lighting and what they're going to talk about. So it's important to just kind of figure that out. If you're going to have a guest, how do you prepare them? What do they need to know? What do you need to send them? Do you have a run of show created so you can make sure you're taking the viewer through an experience that it's somewhat predictable and they're comfortable with? Are you prepared if a piece of equipment fails? I've got backup mics. I've got backup laptops. I have Speedify to make sure that if my cable connection fails, I can switch over to the hotspot. I've actually got a generator that I can plug into because
Really?
if I've got 1,500 people coming to an event, I've got a generator, so I can kind of keep going. I didn't start with all that because when I started, there was a half dozen people that would show up.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to continuous improvement. When I was in aerospace full time, that's what we talked about, continuous improvement. You got to continue to make it better. So, I'm enhancing my background so I can have this ability to switch and go to a normal background or switch over to a green screen if I want to. That's just the Christmas tree lights were added to. I had this originally against a black background. And so I took an old monitor and put it behind it, and that was nice color, but you couldn't really see any sparkles. So then I added the Christmas tree lights, that you can see here. I started out, without a switcher, and then I realized to make it interesting, I needed to be able to switch screens. So I added a 4-port switcher, and then I've added an 8-port switcher. And then to make it even better, I cascaded the 4-port switcher with the 8-port switcher. So, you don't figure all this out at once, and it would be overwhelming if you tried to. But if you just get out there and start going, you say, okay, well, the next event, I want to make it a little bit better. And with each one, you make it a little bit better, and all of a sudden, at the end of a year and 60 episodes later, you've made it a lot better.
So I have one more question. Reusing the content, right? So you do the live stream. Do you do anything with the content after? Do you turn it into blogs? Do you edit down the videos? Do you do anything else with it, or is it?
That's the next phase. I'm actually working on it now and trying to figure out exactly. I think YouTube is going to be my vehicle. My YouTube channel is poor at best. It primarily has a smattering of videos, and then I send my events to it live, so there's a full-length version of it there. And so I want to make it self-sustaining, but I don't want it to take away. I want people, if they want to see the whole event, I want them to go to Crowdcast so I get their email address. Because, having millions of subscribers on YouTube, while it can be wonderful, YouTube owns them, not me.
Yeah.
So I want to continue to get people to come to the live events so I can build my mailing list because that's the one thing I can count on. It's the one thing YouTube can't take away from me. But I realize YouTube probably is one of the best social marketing resources that's out there. So I'm going to compress. Most of my events are 2 hours long. There's 45 minutes worth of really great content from a subject matter expert. There's 15 minutes of kind of transitions and talks. And there's almost always a solid hour of Q&A with the audience, and the audience has fantastic questions. Well, I want to compress that 2 hours maybe into 20 minutes, and then I can put those out on YouTube and then say, if you'd like to see the whole program and get really the in-depth discussion, go to my platform, which at least at the time will probably be Crowdcast, and you can see the whole length program at no charge. So I want to keep trying to build the email list. I think that's how 1,500 people show up at my events.
Yeah. All right, that's good advice. Yeah, I was using today. I was just trying it, so this isn't an ad. It just somebody was telling me how great a product called Descript was, and so I took last week's Speedify Live video, dropped it in, and it gave me a pretty good transcript. Right? I mean,
I have Descript.
Yeah. With punctuation and things, right? We had tried. YouTube has a transcript thing, and it's just everything's in lowercase 6. No punctuation, no idea who the speaker was. It was probably worse than nothing. But Descript,
I'm a big fan of Descript. I like it. I've not fully leveraged it, but it's a fantastic research tool also. Because if I saw a program that I liked, I knew there was a comment in it, I wanted to clip, I can download it, upload it to Descript, go through it, do a search, I can find that phrase, and rather than watching the whole 2-hour program or whatever it is, Descript will take me right to it. So
nice.
I'm a big fan of Descript.
Yeah, one button to remove all the ums and uhs. The whole thing.
And it does it beautifully.
Yeah. And then it both gives you the transcript and the audio if you want. It'll do the same.
And video. And video.
Yeah.
Which is the most amazing part. I've never tried their white glove treatment for transcripts. I want to try that sometime, but the normal transcripts that they do are pretty amazing.
Yeah. Other than seems to always change Speedify to Spotify. Other than that tragic error.
You just have to educate them.
That's right. All right. Well, I think we're coming up on an hour here. So thank you, Doug. I think this was fantastic.
Well, I've had a ball, and I appreciate, again, I am truly a Speedify fan. It is not just because we're on this show. It was the best solution for my challenge, and again, as an engineer, I tried my best to find all kinds of workarounds, and then I look forward to applying it to do some in real life type videos. So I not only like it for what's here in the studio, because I think Speedify is going to work perfect here. What I'm looking forward to is actually taking it on the road, and I want to hear more your stories and experiments and maybe your recommendations for setting that up, because we all learn from each other, and there's no point in me figuring it out the hard way.
All right. We'll have to have you on again.
Sold.
All right. So, as I said, normally we do this Tuesdays and Thursdays. This Thursday, instead of our usual 5 p.m. time, we're going to be 2 p.m. because it'll actually be my keynote at the ECAM Leap into Live conference. So I will be talking about the importance of good connectivity and kind of what bandwidth you actually need in order to do, 1080p or 4K, and how Speedify helps. And I'll do a live demo. I'll actually yank out my Ethernet in the middle of my own keynote because what's the worst that could happen? So, so yeah, tune in to check it out.
I will check that out. And I want to thank Barbara and Kevin. Ryan, I see, he's been in there. There's a lot of great chat, and apparently they enjoy some delicious beers. So to Kevin, Barbara, Ryan, cheers. Certainly appreciate it. And Alex, thank you. This is, it's always a pleasure to talk to you and your whole amazing team. I mean, everybody is so bright and helpful and has enabled me to develop a lot of confidence with my streaming.
That's good to hear. Thank you, Doug. And good night.
Good night. Cheers.